Keivan, if you would make your way up, please. So this particular topic is of special interest to me. Keivan Stassun is the director of the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt University. He's also the chair, this was in your bio, I'm assuming this is still current, you're chair of the Astrophysics department? That seems like a very interesting juxtaposition of roles. Yeah. So maybe you'll tell us something about that. Sure. He's also on the National Science Board and a MacArthur Genius Fellow. He's going to talk about supporting neurodivergence in the workplace. Keivan, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. The Semiconductor Industry Association estimates that by 2030, our country will be facing a shortage of approximately 2 million workers in the science and technology occupations that are essential for semiconductor work and other aspects of our country's global leadership in science and technology generally. Unemployment among people with science and technology degrees is very low, just a couple percent. So it might seem that on the face of it, that we don't have a ready pool of potential talent to draw upon to fill that large gap in science and technology fields. But in fact, we do. Hidden in plain sight, approximately 10 million Americans are on the autism spectrum, potentially very capable of filling these kinds of critical job roles, but require supports in order to get there, in order to get the training that they need and the accommodating workplaces that they need to be successful. This population of about 10 million Americans experiences an unemployment rate of approximately 80%. And so the Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt was founded with the mission of advancing meaningful employment, especially in science and technology occupations for autistic people. And so I'm going to first tell you a little bit about how the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation operates generally, just to give you a sense of the various domains in which we work. But I'm going to spend most of my time highlighting some of the technological solutions that we've been developing to advance this important and underutilized workforce. So the way that we think about our work at the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation is we think about the journey of an individual with autism on their way to a meaningful occupation, but currently facing significant hurdles to get there. As I mentioned, an unemployment rate of about 80%. And so we think about the kinds of supports and experiences that ideally these individuals would experience on their way. And we want to be helping to develop these solutions in each of these domains. So first, we think about educators who need to be themselves informed with an understanding of neurodiversity, by which we mean the abilities that individuals have alongside the support needs that they have. So we're developing academic programs and training programs for autistic individuals to be successful. And then we think about the kinds of workplace supports that individuals ideally would have access to and would experience so that they can be successful on the job. We're thinking about pipelines to employment, so working with companies to have a better understanding of the support needs that autistic adults have, but also the unique abilities that they can contribute to the workplace. And then thinking about the ways in which business leaders and managers need to be better informed and themselves trained to support a neurodiverse workforce. So I'll briefly say a little bit about each of these, and then, like I said, I'll spend most of my time highlighting some of the technological solutions that we've been developing. So in terms of academic programs, we have for a number of years now operated a network of now more than 150 colleges and universities across the country. We call it the College Autism Network. These are colleges and universities, some 2-year colleges, mostly 4-year colleges, that have implemented on-campus supports for autistic students, so that those students can get the specific kinds of supports that they need, not only academically, but most importantly in terms of social skills, communication skills, executive function and organization skills. That those are the kinds of supports that these students so often need, so that these individuals can be much more successful getting entry into higher education training experiences and successfully getting out and graduating with their degrees. We also have been modeling a novel interdisciplinary PhD program right here at Vanderbilt called the Neurodiversity Inspired Science and Engineering PhD Fellowship Program. We have had funding from the National Science Foundation. Unfortunately, we've recently lost that funding. That's another story for another day. But with the funding that we had, we were able to develop this model program that has now awarded more PhDs to autistic scientists and engineers than any other program in the world. We're very proud of that. These are the future leaders for science and technology, bringing unique perspectives. And just one example of what's possible when you structure an academic training program in the right way. Here's one of our PhD fellows, Hari Srinivasan. When he finishes his PhD in neuroscience this year, he will, to our knowledge, become the world's first non-speaking autistic PhD neuroscientist. So these are the things that are possible when we structure our programs the right way with the right supports. Yeah.
Where's the leak in the pipeline in terms of students developing to higher education? Has it happened in grade school, and do you extend your program back into K-12?
Yeah, no, the biggest leak happens on the transition into adulthood. For those of us who are parents of autistic children, the term that we often use is the cliff at 18. It is a wonderful thing that through childhood we now have really quite excellent supports in the K-12 schools, in society more generally, through healthcare and clinical supports and occupational therapy. All these different kinds of supports, where over the past several decades and billions of dollars of investment have gone into creating really quite robust systems of support through childhood. But essentially all of those systems and all of that knowledge and know-how ends when autistic children become autistic adults, and they all do. So the leak in the pipeline happened, as far as this is concerned, the big leak in the pipeline happens getting access to college. Many of these autistic students do get access to college because they very often have strong high school, academic records and good standardized test scores and things like that. But one of the reasons that we created the College Autism Network is because what we were finding is that the vast majority of those autistic students getting into college, even by halfway through their freshman year, they were dropping out. The supports just weren't there. All of those supports that were there up until their 18th birthday suddenly were gone. So that's where the leak is happening. So by creating this national network of college support programs, and then also creating model programs at the graduate level, we're demonstrating that we can support these students, certainly through college, but in some cases for those who really have exceptional talent, we can support them to become the next generation of PhD scientists and engineers. This is something that just wasn't happening at all even 5-10 years ago. So that's in terms of academic programs. we're also thinking about pipelines to employment. So a number of large companies have recognized the potential of hiring neurodiverse people. Ernst & Young, Amazon, Microsoft, Alliance Bernstein right here in Nashville. And so we're working with them. I'll say more about this when I get to the technology-focused part of my talk. But one of the ways that we're supporting these companies to identify and recruit autistic talent is by developing a specialized talent recruitment platform called Mentra. I'll say more about that in just a little bit. But this is just to say we are specifically working on the employment pipeline piece as well. So academic training and then transitions into the workforce. A very important part of how we support the transitions into the workforce is we've been working with a very important partner in the employment space, a company called the Precisionists Incorporated, TPI, started in Wilmington, Delaware, now have offices here in Nashville, in Philadelphia, in Phoenix, in Cleveland, and expanding into other markets. TPI has now become the largest in the United States, the largest employer of autistic adults. They are a business services company, and so they do outsourced contract work for lots of other companies here in Nashville and these other markets, as I said. And so, depending on your roles in your organizations, if you're thinking about ways in which your organization might engage with neurodiversity in employment, there are examples, like I said, of companies that are hiring folks and then supporting them in their companies. But we also have examples of ways in which you can work with a business services partner to engage with autistic talent more indirectly. And then we are we do executive education. We work with business leaders to help them understand the potential of neurodiversity in employment. If you happen to be in the New York City area on April 17th, my colleague Tim Voges from the Vanderbilt Business School and I will be there at Vanderbilt's new New York City campus doing an executive education lunch and learn. We plan to do more of these into the future, but this is an important part as well, is making sure that business leaders also understand this potential an underutilized workforce for their organizations. Okay, so so that was just a quick touch on these different pieces of the puzzle, if you will, and we're trying to have an impact in all of them. This is just to brag a little bit about our team. We are out there. We're engaging in opportunities like this one all across the country, trying to sort of really educate, raise awareness about the potential, the strengths-based side of the same coin that also has a support needs side. We've learned a lot over the years about supports. Now we also need to open doors so that the strengths, the abilities that these folks have for the U.S. workforce in science and technology can really be unleashed at a time when we so desperately need it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
As a neurodiverse person and the parent of 2 kids about to hit that cliff,
Yeah.
Totally on your side. Thank you for doing this. At the same time, my antenna are up a little bit, and I imagine you know why. I'm wondering if, as you start to talk about community partners and who's involved in this, you can include whether actual autistic people are involved in creating the programs meant to serve them.
Yeah. So all of our staff at the Frist Center are autistic.
I'm in love, thank you. Okay.
All of the technologies that I'm going to now show you have been developed, if not led by autistic scientists and engineers, in all cases directly involved with the neurodiverse community, involved in our everything at every step from ideation to design to user testing. And then the last example that I'm going to show you is our first commercial venture that we're launching, and that is led by a neurodiverse team. Very important. Thank you.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
So you're going to talk about technologies and things that you've put in place to help neurodiverse candidates in the workplace. How much of the change needs to be in company culture and in the processes and the ways we work in order to make this successful as well? Because that seems like something that's actually harder to change and takes longer.
Yeah.
And something we should be starting now.
Yeah. So I would say that where some companies have very successfully started to engage autistic talent right in their workplaces, that's only been possible because they've undertaken a process of changing that workplace culture, educating managers, coworkers, to have an understanding about neurodiversity, how it shows up, how folks need to be supported so that they can bring their best selves to the workplace. So absolutely that is what's required if a company is going to seriously and successfully not only hire but retain autistic talent. At the same time, I think we just need to have multiple approaches. I get approached all the time by leaders in companies who say, we want to do something. We want to be involved in better recruiting and retaining autistic talent. And I basically say, there's two approaches. One is, you can do what Ernst & Young have done, and basically implement an in-house program. Understand you're going to need to do a lot of workplace transformation kind of work, the culture, but also implementing supports so that people can get the supports they need to be successful. Or you can make a company like the Precisionists a preferred vendor, because TPI, they do a lot of the work for you in the sense that they have these very supportive, highly accommodating workplaces, which can be really important for folks on the autism spectrum who maybe have higher support needs. I say that as thinking about my own son, who's actually starting to work at the Precisionists here in Nashville now, because he's very intelligent, highly capable, but really requires a kind of a more hands-on, more wraparound form of support at work. And so, so yes to the culture and the workplace transformation thing, but also, there are folks on the autism spectrum who can bring a lot to our economy and to our workforce, but are going to need just sort of a higher support needs kind of accommodating kind of solution, and so that's where this solution comes in as well. So a both and, I would say.
Over here on your left, I keep coming back to Peter's comment about characters don't have strengths or weaknesses, they just have traits. Talk to us a little bit about some of the benefits that organizations will get, aside from the fact that if you hire a PhD researcher in anything, obviously you get good, but just generally, because I'm sure they're there, I just would be interested in knowing what the benefits would be to the organization.
Yeah. So it's impossible to with any human being or any human population, right? Sort of brush them all with
one size
stroke.
does not fit all. It's a spectrum for a reason.
Yeah,
et cetera.
that's right. That's right. But there are some common traits or characteristics So Ernst & Young, for example, when they launched their neurodiversity hiring initiative some years ago, they did an internal study of what were the benefits, what were the costs, just sort of a full accounting. And what they found was that the autistic folks that they were hiring tended to bring a higher attention to detail, a kind of a more persistent focus on certain kinds of work tasks, quite high degree of loyalty to the organization, honesty and accuracy and precision in documentation and reporting, challenges around communication in terms of sort of social communication, but a high degree of fidelity to accuracy in communication. So those are some of the things that organizations see as benefits. But you hear even in those benefits that I was describing, right? You hear in there layered a need for the organization to understand how to support that, because there can be challenges associated.
Well, and also, I mean, it tells you what sort of organization is even going to be open to this, because there's some organizations where it's all glitz and flash and the truth doesn't matter. And there are some organizations where accuracy really matters a lot, and you want people to say the painful truths without worrying.
That's right.
It's interesting reflecting on sort of research versus accounting. Hi, sorry, over here. I have come to realize that quite a few of the people who, whether long-term or short-term, that have come to our research lab have been sort of typically ADHD characteristics, which in many ways represent the inverse of those. They're novelty-seeking, they are very creative, they're sort of fearless in experimentation, they're storytellers. And so, those are people who would really struggle in this environment of, fine detail, long-term focus, et cetera. So it's interesting sort of recognizing in my own community that this neurodiversity also, it's adaptive in certain environments.
That's right. And and a lot of times you hear this expression of innovation comes from the edges. I think there's a way of thinking about neurodiversity, autism, ADHD, right? They have differences, as you were just describing, but one of the common aspects is a tendency, and this can be really powerful and valuable, a tendency to look at problems from a kind of a completely different angle. Yeah.
You've mentioned many times about the support requirements, but I'm not really clear on what those are. Can you give a couple of examples?
Sure. There are some are easy and some can be more difficult to implement. Some easy things. We find that almost without exception, autistic individuals in particular experience hypersensitivity to certain kinds of stimuli. So for example, bright lights, fluorescent lights that may sort of flicker a little bit, high-pitched sounds and from the refrigerator in the break room, things that are sort of either not perceptible or just kind of for most of us we sort of tune it out, or we just sort of deal with it without realizing it, can be so centrally overwhelming to autistic people that can be the thing that makes it so that they can't function. But we now have, right, sort of off-the-shelf technologies that can help, noise-canceling headphones. You have the ability, if you want, to implement different kinds of lighting in the workplace. A lot of these companies now have sort of sensory break rooms where people can just sort of take some time to themselves if the workplace is otherwise overstimulating. So there are things that can be implemented that are not high cost or not difficult. There are also individuals, and again now I say this as a parent, who when it comes to social interaction in particular, can find, so this is less about sort of the work space and sensory input, but more about sort of one-on-one human interaction. That social interaction can be very challenging and can be dysregulating. And so one of the things that, for example, the precisionist does is that they implement, all of their workflow is structured so that individuals can do their work on their own, and all of their interaction with their team and with their supervisors is done in a way that just sort of bypasses that the kind of one-on-one social communication that can be dysregulating for some folks. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit about some of the technologies that we've been working with. I'll briefly tell you a bit about Florio and Mentra. These are technologies that we're not developing in-house, but that we're supporting other startups to launch. And then I'll end with the Sandy commercial venture, which is a commercial venture coming out of the Frist Center itself. So Florio is a virtual reality headset, virtual reality system platform designed to teach autistic individuals skills of everyday living, but also skills that are essential for success at school and at work. And so here you see Vijay Ravindran, the CEO of Florio. We've launched a partnership here in Tennessee specifically to develop modules for their platform that are most relevant to autistic adults and readiness for school and work. A short video about it.
Imagine learning how to cross a street. I can tell you how to cross a street in an office. You can practice in the real world, but the consequences of doing it wrong the first time are severe. In virtual reality, we can create a street, we can create cars and traffic, we can help train the individual to understand the walk sign, judge risky behavior from cars, and ultimately be able to visually practice that skill that has really no margin for error in the real world.
And so, so Florio now has a large library of modules for different kinds of scenarios, real-world scenarios. Again, sort of the example that you just saw there about learning how to cross the street, right? Really important, kind of daily living independent skill. But where we've been working with Florio most directly is on those that are relevant to the transition into adulthood and to the world of work. So everything from learning how to interact appropriately with law enforcement, that can be a really critical skill, to conversation skills for the workplace and at school, job skills, so practicing sort of teamwork, even practicing time management. I mean, you can sort of mock this all up in virtual reality, and it's safe, and we can build in sort of reinforcement systems for people to learn how to ride the bus so that you can get to your job, how to get through the airport TSA line. And you can just mock all of these scenarios up in virtual reality, and these are ways in which we can now, in ways that we couldn't even do 5 years ago, provide realistic training experiences for people to be successful, being out in the world, getting to work, getting to school. So this is a really, really important technological development that we've been a part of. That was just to show you that it works. Another example that I'll give you is the Mentra platform. I mentioned this briefly earlier as one of the ways that we support. Is that my thing? As one of the ways that we support companies that want to do a better job of recruiting and retaining autistic talent. So think of Mentra as Indeed.com, but for neurodiversity. And so we've been working with the Mentra team to develop their platform, to have their platform both bring in a large number of neurodiverse job seekers. There are up to over 50,000 neurodiverse job seekers on their platform with profiles ready for companies to recruit from. With them, we've also been developing quick guides for companies that interact with the Mentra platform to start learning how to do some things in the workplace to be more supportive of neurodiversity. the thing that makes this really unique, there's no other solution like this out there at the moment, is the very large number of neurodiverse people in the system already. We've been implementing things like the Florio modules so that individuals can not only be creating their essentially their online resumes and profiles, but starting to get some of that training as they're doing it, and making it easy for employers to find that talent. And we're layering in AI so that individuals get matched to good job opportunities. Yeah.
50,000 is an amazing number. How long did it take to get to that point?
Let's see. Mentra launched in 2021, so it's about 4 years. Yeah.
Question down front
yeah.
on you, right? Is there training or discussions with people on how to deal with office politics, for example, or getting reviews by their bosses or reviews of their peers, stuff like that?
No. And the reason is that there are some aspects of being autistic that are just intrinsic to being autistic and that sort of can't be trained away. And so rather than think about those differences that people have as ones that need to be fixed or trained away, rather we think about what do managers need to learn and understand about how their teams should be operating, so that you're focused on making sure that your team is operating efficiently, communicating effectively, and not relying on wink, wink, nudge, nudge to get the work done, right? So that's an example of sort of workplace culture that was asked about earlier, where it would be a heavy lift essentially to rewire a certain kind of brain to operate in that kind of environment. It's a much less heavy lift to work with people to make their teams and their workplace cultures such that communication is just effective and precise and focused on the work all around. Okay. So we've learned a lot actually from the video gaming industry about how to gamify systems, which can be really a very effective way, especially with autistic people, to get them interested and engaged in something. So one of the ways that we've been so successful in getting 50,000 people signed up is that the system itself is by design one that is engaging and keeps people engaged, so that they're successfully creating these online profiles and then positioning themselves to be recruited and hired. And some great logos of companies involved now engaged with the Mentra platform, hiring individuals through it. Microsoft, OpenAI, some of the big early, really big early adopters of this system. And so this is one of the ways in which we're really moving the needle for getting that big talent gap from the autistic population into these companies that so desperately need to hire for these roles. So the final example that I'll give you is this driving simulator. First, I'm just going to briefly let Anderson Cooper give you a preview of some of the many technologies that we're developing at the Frist Center before I end by telling you about the driving simulator system specifically.
Vanderbilt University opened the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation, a groundbreaking research center where scientists and others are developing tools and technology to transform the workplace for people on the autism spectrum.
What subject did you most enjoy in school?
They're creating computer-simulated job interviews,
Straight ahead.
specially designed driving challenges, and a block design test to help a company assess a potential employee's visual problem-solving ability.
if you Google Anderson Cooper 60 Minutes Autism, this will come right up. It's a, they did a 13-minute segment. I highly recommend it. This was just to show you that we have a number of technology development things going, this is a technology that we've gotten to a point of maturity that we are launching it as a full commercial venture. Later today, you'll have an opportunity to interact with this system right here. We're going to have it set up for you to demo. You can sit in the seat and try your hand and let the system tell you all the ways in which you weren't looking at the right place at the right time. But so this is really important, right? There's a right way to develop technological solutions specifically for autistic and other neurodiverse people, right? You have to understand what the challenges are in order to design a working solution. What we know is that currently, fewer than 25% of autistic adults who otherwise should be capable of driving a car even have a driver's license. The reasons have to do with attention, distraction, sensory challenges in operating a vehicle. So the Sandy system, I'm going to show you a quick video and then we'll end, was designed with all of that understanding in mind. It integrates physiological sensors, it's safe and adaptive, and reinforces learning using eye gaze tracking and other physiological sensing, all in a non-intrusive and comfortable and safe way. So just get to the video here. Oop. Would you help me hit the plate? Thank you.
Driving is a significant challenge for many neurodivergent individuals. This struggle often limits their independence and job opportunities. Flashing lights, sudden stops, and constant changes can cause sensory overload, making traditional driving lessons difficult for both learners and instructors.
Meet Sandy, a driving assistance simulator designed for instructors to teach neurodivergent people the basic rules of the road and essential driving skills.
Sandy adapts to the needs of neurodivergent learners, creating a safe, controlled, and supportive environment for effective learning. It gathers information on how each learner responds to different driving situations using advanced, non-intrusive sensors that track eye gaze, heart rate, and sweating. With effective computing and machine learning, Sandy helps instructors understand drivers' stress and engagement levels, assess their focus, and identify stressful situations. This valuable information enables instructors to provide real-time feedback and personalized guidance. Sandy offers customizable driving experiences that enhance learning and build confidence on the road. By turning challenges into growth opportunities, Sandy helps neurodivergent learners become more confident and independent drivers.
Sandy empowers instructors, from schools to nonprofits, to make driving safer and more accessible for everyone.
So I'll wrap up there. Just to conclude, we need millions more of our best and brightest right here in America to keep our position as the world's leader in science and technology. We have a vastly underutilized, capable workforce right before us. And our mission at the Frist Center for Autism Innovation is to develop those technologies, engage with the private sector, engage with employers, provide the training experiences, develop the technologies that will help bridge that gap. So thank you for your interest.
Thank you so much, Keivan.
Okay.
We will take advantage of finishing pretty much on time, and so if you have questions to follow up, then let's...
And we'll have the Sandy system out for you to play with a little later on.
Yeah. But very seriously, thank you very much for the work that you do. It's really inspiring.